I was calm yesterday, folded neatly in a wallet, floating digitally inside accounts, resting quietly in retirement funds, sleeping in vaults beneath steel doors. Then, the missiles flew. And in less than 48 hours, I began to change. You think of me as a steady thing, a constant, paper, numbers, stable. But I am a mirror of the world's collective nerves. And right now, the world is screaming. You've seen the headlines, the flashes of light over Tehran on your feed, the words, major combat operations. Your heart is racing. But your wallet is already beginning to transform. Let me show you what really happens to me in the first 48 hours of war, not the news version, the real version. I'm money, and when missiles fly, I move before you do. Hour 0. The headline breaks. The first missile hasn't even landed yet, but I'm already moving. Here's what most people don't realize. I don't wait for destruction. I react to expectation. Fear travels faster than any drone. Markets are closed, but futures are not. Before most people wake up, traders are already selling. Stock futures drop. Oil futures spike. Gold begins to rise. Not because anything has been destroyed yet, because the possibility is now priced in. Maria is checking her phone right now. She's watching the same alerts you're watching. Troop movements, airspace closures, statements from leaders. She's thinking the same thing you're thinking. What does this mean for my money? She doesn't see me moving yet, but I am. Hour 3, the digital freeze. The first thing that goes isn't value, it's access. Millions of people have the exact same idea at the exact same time. I need to see it. I need to touch it. Millions of fingers hit banking apps simultaneously. The servers, already struggling under state-sponsored cyber attacks or just sheer volume, simply quit. You go to the ATM, there's a line. By the time you get to the front, the screen is dark. Or worse, it tells you can only take out $200. Not because you're poor, because the bank is terrified. They call it a temporary liquidity measure. I call it a cage. Digital wealth is a beautiful dream until the power goes out, until the connection drops, until the system decides you can't have what's yours. Behind the scenes, something else is happening. Institutional investors aren't waiting in ATM lines. They're moving billions electronically through channels that still work. They sell risk. They buy safety. They buy US dollars. They buy government bonds. They buy gold. I am being repositioned at lightning speed. You don't see it, but I feel it. Hour 6, the oil spike. Oil jumps sharply, not because oil stopped flowing, because war threatens supply routes, pipelines, shipping lanes. Energy is the bloodstream of the global economy. When energy fears rise, transport costs rise. Food costs anticipate rising. Manufacturing prices adjust in advance. Nothing has become more expensive yet, but expectations have. And expectations move me before reality does. Maria is still at work, still going through her day, but the price of everything she'll buy tomorrow is already being rewritten. Hour 9, the bank question. Maria has $4,000 in her checking account. She's seen movies about bank runs. She's heard stories from older relatives about freezing deposits. She's wondering if she should withdraw cash while she still can. Here's the truth. Banks are more resilient than they look. After 2008, regulators forced them to hold more capital, to stress test for exactly these scenarios. The IMF just reviewed Israel's banking system, right in the middle of ongoing conflict, and found banks well-capitalized, liquid, and profitable. But resilient doesn't mean bulletproof. Banks have concentrated exposures, real estate loans, business lending. If the conflict drags on, if the economy slows, if defaults start piling up, that resilience gets tested. In the first 48 hours, Maria's $4,000 is safe. The systems work. ATMs stay on, mostly. Cards keep swiping, mostly. But the real risk isn't the first 48 hours. The real risk is what happens if the conflict doesn't end. Hour 12. Markets open. Stock markets open. Red. Investors sell first and ask questions later. Retirement accounts shrink in hours. Pension funds lose billions. Crypto falls as liquidity dries up. Why does crypto fall? Because in a crisis, people want cash, not volatility. They want what's proven, not what's experimental. Liquidity becomes king. I rush toward the safest, most liquid places. Maria checks her 401k. She doesn't panic yet, but she feels it. That tightness in the chest, that realization that the numbers she trusted this morning are already different. Hour 15. The panic tax. Go to the gas station. Look at the sign. It's not just oil prices moving anymore. It's fear pricing. The owner doesn't know if the next shipment is coming, so they charge you for the uncertainty. That's the war premium. In the grocery aisles, I buy half of what I bought yesterday. People are hoarding rice, water, canned goods, toilet paper. When supply chains tremble, I lose my intelligence and become a blunt instrument. People stop looking at the price tag and start looking at the shelf. If you're still holding me in a digital account, you're watching numbers. If you're holding me in your hand, you're watching your purchasing power get thinner. Hour 18. The spending question. Governments speak. Emergency addresses, promises of strength, warnings to enemies. But behind the speeches, finance ministries prepare something else. Spending. War is expensive. Missiles are not paid with courage. They are paid with me. Defense budgets expand overnight. Emergency funding is approved. Markets begin pricing in future borrowing. Here's the math that matters. When governments spend more without collecting more in taxes, they have to borrow. And when they borrow, they eventually have to print. And when they print, I shrink. Not today, not tomorrow, but the path is set. Hour 24. The first full day ends. One full day. Here's what's happened. Stocks are down, oil is up, gold is up, defense stocks may be rising, safe haven currencies are strengthening. Maria's bank account still shows the same number, but its future purchasing power is already under pressure. Because war spending means one of three things: higher taxes, more debt, or more money creation. And historically, governments choose debt first and money creation second. The dollar paradox is in full effect. Even when America's the one striking, the world hides inside the dollar. On global charts, I look like a hero. But on the street, I'm just a piece of paper that can't find a loaf of bread. Hour 30. Capital flight. Capital begins to move across borders. Investors pull money from countries near the conflict. Currencies in the region weaken. Why? Because trust is leaving. And I follow trust. When trust falls, currencies fall. The Iranian rial has already collapsed to record lows. That's what happens when your banking system gets sanctioned, your assets get frozen, your access to global trade gets cut. Maria watches this on the news. She thinks it's someone else's problem. She doesn't realize that the same mechanisms, sanctions, asset freezes, currency isolation, could apply anywhere. The world is fracturing into currency blocks, dollar-aligned, euro-aligned, yuan-aligned. Your wealth increasingly depends on which block you're in. Hour 36, the inflation reality. Day 2, the adrenaline is fading, the reality is settling in, and the inflation starts arriving. Not the official inflation, that takes months to show up in government statistics. The real inflation, the kind you feel. Gas stations raising prices temporarily, grocery stores adjusting shelf tags, contractors adding uncertainty surcharges to estimates. That's the war premium. Central banks begin calculating. Should they raise interest rates to defend the currency or lower rates to support growth? War forces impossible choices: fight inflation or fund survival. History shows that during prolonged wars, inflation usually wins, and I slowly lose value, not in one explosion, in quiet erosion. Hour 40, the sanctions question. Now the financial weapons start firing in earnest. Sanctions, asset freezes, SWIFT restrictions. This is the part of modern warfare most people never see, the part where money itself becomes a weapon. When the US sanctions a country, it doesn't just block transactions, it isolates that country's entire banking system, it freezes central bank assets, it makes the currency untouchable. Russia lost hundreds of billions in frozen reserves. Iran's entire financial system is crippled, and Treasury officials have been clear. That was the goal. In the modern world, war is not only fought with weapons, it is fought with financial infrastructure, and I can be weaponized. Hour 44. Human behavior. People begin to behave differently. Some withdraw cash, some hoard food, some buy gold, some convert savings into foreign currency. This is not panic, this is survival psychology. When uncertainty rises, humans shift from growth mode to protection mode, and I become defensive. Maria drives past a gas station with bags over the pumps. Sold out. She goes to another. Line of cars down the block. She's not panicking, she's adapting. But adaptation at scale looks all the while like panic. Hour 48. The new normal. 2 full days have passed. Missiles may still be flying, but the financial shock is already spread worldwide. Even countries not involved feel it. Oil affects everyone. Supply chains affect everyone. Investor psychology affects everyone. War is local, but I am global. Here's what's different now. Stock markets have repriced. Defense stocks are up, energy stocks are up, everything else is down. Investors are rebuilding portfolios around a more dangerous world. Currencies have resettled. The dollar is stronger against some, weaker against others. The Swiss franc is up. Switzerland is neutral, stable, and not near any conflict zones. The euro is uncertain because Europe is closer to the action than it wants to be. Gold is higher. It always is. Not because gold pays interest or generates cash flow, because gold doesn't depend on anyone's promise. In a world where promises look fragile, gold looks solid. And the debt question is louder. Governments are borrowing more, deficits are expanding. The bill for this conflict will arrive eventually, and someone has to pay it. The system is officially pulled the emergency brake. Here's the truth you rarely hear. In the first 48 hours of war, your money does not disappear. It transforms. It moves towards safety. It abandons risk. It anticipates inflation. It prices in debt. It reacts to fear. The destruction you see on television is physical. The destruction I experience is psychological. And psychology moves markets faster than tanks move across borders. If the war is short, markets may recover. If it escalates, inflation deepens, debt expands, currencies shift, economic power rearranges. But the first 48 hours always follow the same pattern: fear, flight, repricing, protection. You think war begins on the battlefield. For me, it begins in expectations. I've watched millions of people go through this. The ones who panic lose. The ones who freeze lose. The ones who understand what's actually happening, they don't lose. They adapt. Here's what you can do right now. 1. Check your liquidity. If you need cash in a crisis, can you get it? Not in theory, in reality. Is your money in institutions that will survive stress? Is it accessible if digital systems get disrupted? Keep a little bit of me, the physical me, where the internet can't reach. 2. Check your exposure. What happens to your savings if the dollar weakens, if inflation accelerates, if interest rates move against you? Run the scenarios now, not when they're happening. 3. Check your assumptions. The old rules don't always apply. The dollar's safe haven status is changing. The global system is fragmenting. What worked in the last conflict may not work in this one. 4. Check your time horizon. In the first 48 hours, everything looks chaotic. In the first 48 weeks, patterns emerge. In the first 48 months, new systems form. Don't make decisions in hour 1 that you'll regret in year 5. And 5, remember what I am. I am not evil, I am not magical, I am not a reward for virtue or a punishment for failure. I am simply reactive. I respond to the systems you put me in. When missiles fly, those systems change, the rules change, the risks change, and I change with them. The final word. Maria's $100 didn't disappear. It's still in her wallet, still in her bank account, still the same number printed in the corner. But what that $100 can buy, what it can protect, what it can survive, that's different now. Not because the world ended, because the world shifted. And the people who understand those shifts, the ones who see me clearly, they don't panic, they plan, they adapt, they protect what matters. Maria is starting to understand that. I can see it in her eyes. She's still scared, that's normal, but she's watching now, she's learning now, she's paying attention now. That's the only power any of you have ever really had. You think war begins on the battlefield. For me, it begins in expectations. I am money, and when missiles fly, I do not wait, I move. And whether you understand it or not, I move, with or without you. Take care of your hours. Keep a little bit of me where the internet can't reach, because the next 48 hours, they're going to be very, very long.